Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, September 2nd, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Saturday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Miami Marlins taking on the Washington Nationals. No official starter for Miami. Trevor Williams should be going for the Nationals. I'll be staying away from this game. I think there's much better places to be on the board for baseball and for college football. But I'll lean towards Miami here. Trevor Williams pitched well against the Marlins in his last start, but that was still a 2-1 loss for Washington. The Nationals are just 2-3 in his last 5 games on the money line, and he has struggled in the second half of the season with an ERA above almost at 6 in the month of July and above 5 in the month of August. So, I do think the Marlins are the better team here with the better bullpen. I'll lean towards Miami on the money line. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Oakland Athletics. Griffin Canning and Paul Blackburn are your starters. I'm going to take the Oakland A's in the first 5 innings in this game. I like Paul Blackburn when he's pitching at home in the Coliseum, where he's got a 3.77 ERA this season in 43 innings, 46 strikeouts, and only 4 home runs given up. Griffin Canning's been solid on the other side in the month of August, but we know he's been inconsistent overall in the second half of the season and an ERA above 5 in July. He is giving up some sharp contact, some home runs recently. He's coming off a good game against the Mets, but a 4-13 ground ball to fly ball ratio does concern me for a pitcher like we mentioned has issues with the home run ball. I think Paul Blackburn gives the A's 5-6 strong innings. Should be enough for a win in the first 5. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Littell and Logan Allen are your starters. I like the price we're getting with the Guardians here at Progressive Field. Logan Allen's last start was not his best against Toronto, but we know the Blue Jays are one of the best lineups in baseball against lefties in the second half of the season, and that was also the second time Allen faced the Blue Jays in the span of only a couple weeks. He faced them back on August 9th as well, and in that game he went 5 innings of 1-run ball. So I think Allen bounces back here. He's been pitching pretty well at Progressive Field, a 3.7 ERA, facing a Rays lineup that hasn't been crushing lefties in the second half of the season, and Zach Littell's not really in good form on the other side for the Tampa Bay Rays, even though the Rays have been winning his games his last 2 starts. He went 11 in the third innings of work against the Rockies and Yankees. He gives up 8 earned runs and 4 home runs in those 2 starts, and that means 4 straight games with at least 1 home run given up for Littell. He's somebody that's starting to pick up some more strikeouts, some more missed bats recently, but now you're facing a Guardians team we know has limited strikeouts, basically all season against right-handed pitching. Give me the Cleveland Guardians here on the money line. Next up, the Boston Red Sox taking on the Kansas City Royals. Tanner Houck for Boston, no official starter for KC. For me, I lean towards the over and the Red Sox on the run line in this game. Tanner Houck's been better on the road this season, but still an ERA above 4.4 on the road in 36 2/3 innings with a 1-5 record. The Royals have pretty decent numbers against right-handed pitchers in the second half of the season overall. And Boston's lineup we know is going to be a tough one for the Royals bullpen to face. This Royals bullpen in the last 30 days and overall this season has struggled quite a bit. High ERA and bad expected numbers to go with it. I'm going to take the over here and Boston in this one. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners and the New York Mets. Luis Castillo for the Mariners. No official starter for New York. I have seen David Peterson listed on a few sites, so he could very well be the starter. Could be a bullpen game for New York, but I do think the Mariners win it in the end. Castillo pitching well this season, a 3.01 ERA. A little bit better numbers at home this season at T-Mobile Park, but still a solid pitching option on the road. He's in good form. His last 2 games against Chicago and Kansas City, 14 innings of 1-run ball with 15 strikeouts to go with it. No home runs and only 1 walk. So really in great form for Seattle and an important part of the season. The bullpen strong for Seattle. Give me the Mariners on the money line. Next up, the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Aaron Nola for Philadelphia, no official starter for the Brew Crew. Nola is pitching well. He's in good form, and he's having his second best month of the season in terms of ERA at 3.68 in August through 29 and a third innings of work, 35 strikeouts, and the Phillies are 4-1 in his last 5 starts. I like him here. The Brewers lineup has not been great against right-handed pitchers in the month of August. I do think the Brewers have the advantage in the bullpen, but I think the Phillies bullpen is good enough here, and Philadelphia offensively has been red hot lately. I like the Phillies on the money line. Next up, the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Drew Rom for St. Louis, no official starter for the Buccos. Now, I know Drew Rom bounced back in his last game against the Phillies where he went 5 1/3 innings, giving up only 2 runs, but he struggled against this Pirates lineup back on August 21st, so only less than 10 days ago, and he gave up 8 total runs. 6 of those were earned, 4 walks and a home run, an 11-1 Pirates win. Pittsburgh has not been great against lefties offensively this season, but they were able to get to Rom, and it's tough to knock back up here with a decent bullpen. And both of these teams have been disappointing this season, but for me, I'm going to take the road team and a slight lean on the money line. Next up, we go to Great American Ballpark as the Cubs take on the Reds. Javier Assad and Andrew Abbott are your starters. Now, Javier Assad's been a really important piece in this Chicago Cubs rotation as they make their playoff push. In his last 5 starts, which all his starts in August, he's gone 29 innings of work and a 2.48 ERA, and the Cubs are 5-0 in those games. And, recently it's been some weaker lineups, the Pirates, the Tigers, the White Sox. But, before that, the Blue Jays and Braves were also still strong outings and wins for Chicago in those games. So Assad's in great form. I think he pitches pretty well in this game, and I think his offense is going to back him up. Andrew Abbott, not really in the best of form. His last 2 starts, only going 7 1/3 innings combined because he has 7 walks allowed. His control's been off in those games. 3 earned runs apiece in short outings. One of those was a win for Cincinnati, but the other one a loss 4-1 in his last game against the Giants, a team we know has not hit lefties very well this season. I think Chicago is a much tougher opponent, especially at Great American Ballpark, and I think the Cubs have the advantage in the bullpen. I think if this is a close game late, Cincinnati's bullpen in the last month, the 4th highest Sierra. Give me Chicago here on the money line. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Chicago White Sox. Reese Olson and Mike Clevenger are your starters. And I think both pitchers pitch well in this game. I think we see a low-scoring one, but I like the Tigers to win the game in the end. I like them on the money line. Reese Olson pitched really well in his last game, probably his best start of the season, as it was 4 1/3 innings, only 4 1/3 innings, but 10 strikeouts and 1-run ball against the Yankees. Now, the Tigers lost that game in the end, and Olson's control was off a little bit with 4 walks, but 10 strikeouts and 4 1/3, really impressive stuff. I think one of the big reasons why it was such a good outing for Olson was because he faced the Yankees lineup that has majority right-handed batters in the lineup. It was only one switch hitter, I believe, in the starting lineup for the Yankees in that game. The rest were all righties, and we've seen Olson struggle against lefties this season. The opponents who are lefties against Olson have a 759 OPS compared to right-handed batters at 671, so about 80 points better for lefties against Olson. And now you're facing a White Sox team that, again, is majority right-handed batters. Guys like Luis Robert, Andrew Vaughn, Eloy Jimenez, Tim Anderson, mostly right-handed batters for this White Sox team. A couple of lefties that they may throw in here, but not really the strongest bats either. I think Olson pitches really well. I think the Tigers grab a win for him. Give me Detroit on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Houston Astros. Luis Severino and Hunter Brown are your starters. I think you really got to give credit to Luis Severino, who was really struggling and still is having a disappointing season overall for the Yankees. There was a string of starts where he was giving up 4 or more runs almost every time out on the mound. But now, his last 2 starts, he's been able to hang in there, sharpen up, and his last 2 games combined 13 2/3 innings of no earned run ball. 10 strikeouts, only 2 walks, no home runs, only 6 base hits. He's pitching really well right now. He's also keeping the ball on the ground, an 11-7 ground ball to fly ball ratio in his last game against Detroit, and 2 wins for the Yankees in his last 2 starts as well. Hunter Brown, I would say it's been a disappointing season for him. A lot of expectations going into the year. A 4.47 ERA is not great. A 5.47 ERA at Minute Maid Park is also not great. And I do think there's some value here with the New York Yankees, at least getting on the run line plus the 1.5 runs. I think Severino does a good enough job to keep the Yankees in this game. I think we see a low-scoring game, but a game the Yankees cover the run line in. Maybe the Astros grab a 1-run win, but give me the Yankees plus the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Texas Rangers. Dallas Keuchel and Jordan Montgomery are your starters. Now, Dallas Keuchel pitched really well against the Rangers in his last game back on August 27th. It was a game where Bailey Ober struggled early on in that game. He gave up 5 runs in 4 innings, but then Keuchel comes in and he keeps the Twins in that ball game enough to where they're able to come back and actually win in an extra inning, 7-6. But Keuchel in that game, when you look at the expected batting average for the Rangers against him in some of those innings, they had a lot of at-bats with 500 or better expected batting average. I do think they'll be able to get to Keuchel the second time around, especially, I still don't know if Keuchel's the best option in this Twins rotation. They put him in the bullpen in that last game, but I do think Texas gets to him. Jordan Montgomery was not the best against the Twins last time. He was 5 1/3 innings, a 3-run ball, but I think he's good enough here at Globe Life Field. Give me the Texas Rangers on the run line at home. Next up, the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kyle Bradish and Slade Cecconi are your starters. I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks plus a half a run in this game. I know Kyle Bradish is pitching well this season. He's in good form, but I like the fact that Arizona does a good job of limiting strikeouts and getting on base via the walk against right-handed pitchers. They've basically done so all season. And in the last 2 weeks, a team OPS against righties at 757, top 10 in baseball. I do think that I think Slade Cecconi's also improved his game quite a bit. His last 3 games, 2 earned runs or fewer given up, and all 3 wins for Arizona. Decent strikeout numbers, decent control. His last 2 games, no walks allowed against the Reds or Rangers. Give me the Diamondbacks plus a half a run in the first 5. I don't love this Diamondbacks bullpen, so if the Orioles win this game, I think they win it late. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field. Yusei Kikuchi and Ty Blach are your starters. Now, this is going to be the first career start for Kikuchi at Coors Field, and I don't think he's going to be perfect in this game. His last start wasn't his best against the Guardians. It's not always easy pitching at Coors Field, especially if you've never pitched there before, but I still think he's the better option here, even though Blach has pitched pretty well at Coors Field. I think the Blue Jays have a much better lineup against left-handed pitching especially, but the big advantage I think Toronto has is the bullpen. And when you look at these 2 bullpens in the last month, but even overall this season, the Rockies bullpen, one of the worst in the league. In the last 30 days, an ERA above 5, with the second worst Sierra. The Blue Jays in the last 30 days, the third best Sierra, and a decent ERA at 3.47. The Blue Jays are guaranteed, as the road team, to have 9 full innings of at-bats in this game. That's enough for me to want to take Toronto on the run line here, laying the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the San Diego Padres. Kyle Harrison and Blake Snell are your starters. Pretty similar starting pitchers. The one's a righty, one's a lefty, but in the sense that these guys miss a lot of bats, they earn a lot of strikeouts, but sometimes their control can be an issue. Kyle Harrison in the minor leagues, that was certainly the case. Not so far in the major leagues, though. He's only given up 3 walks in 9 2/3 innings. Not too bad, with 16 strikeouts to go with it. He's in really good form. His last game, 6 1/3 innings, no runs in those 11 Ks against Cincinnati in a 4-1 win. Blake Snell, we know in the second half of the season especially, missing a ton of bats, winning a lot of games for San Diego, for a team that doesn't really win a lot of games to begin with, and pitching really well at Petco Park. For me, I think both of these pitchers pitch well early on, but I think the advantage got to go to San Francisco if this is a close game late with their bullpen. In the last month, hasn't been the best bullpen in baseball, but we know it's been one of the stronger ones overall this season. I'm going to take the San Francisco Giants at a really good price. Blake Snell's been a solid pitcher for us in the second half, but in this game, I'm going to give the edge to San Francisco. And your final game for Saturday's card in Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bryce Elder for Atlanta, no official starter for LA. I don't love this spot for Bryce Elder on the road. He's got an ERA above 4 on the road this season, but beyond that, we know Elder has some regression concerns. Not the best expected numbers this season, a 4.3 expected ERA and a 4.42 xFIP. Very tough matchup here against the Dodgers, a good lineup against right-handed pitching, and this Dodgers bullpen's been one of the best bullpens in the last 2 weeks, really in the last month as well. Good expected numbers, a good ERA. I'm going to take the Dodgers here on the money line at Dodger Stadium, and it should be a really good game. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.